The man suspected of planting a bomb along the Martin Luther King Unity March was back in federal court today and got some bad news about just how much time behind bars he faces. Up until last week, Kevin Harpham was charged with attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction and possessing an unregistered explosive. However, a grand jury has now also indicted Harpham with a hate crime and using an explosive to commit a hate crime. KXLY4's Jeff Humphrey is live at the federal building. And Jeff, that last charge must be a real concern for Harpham.
And Robin, that's because if Harpham is convicted of trying to use a bomb to commit a hate crime, he will be a senior citizen before he can get out of prison. Harpham was in court today to plead not guilty to those new charges handed up by a federal grand jury late last week. That superseding indictment alleges the attempted bombing back on January 17th targeted minorities and was racially motivated. Harpham is now accused of violating the Federal Hate Crimes Act and using an explosive to commit a hate crime. Today in court, we learned if Harpham is convicted of that last count, he faces a minimum of 30 years in prison with no time off for good behavior, which means Harpham would be at least 66 before he's released.
But yeah, that's serious. You cannot be convicted of that alone. You had to be convicted of the hate crime to be convicted of count 4. Without a conviction of the hate crime, count 4 disappears.
And apparently in an effort to prove that Harpham was motivated by hate, it appears that Harpham's mother and father testified before the grand jury here in Spokane last week. The U.S. Attorney may have been using Harpham's parents to show jurors that Harpham has a long history of prejudice against minorities. Unfortunately, that testimony, like so much of this case, remains sealed and likely to do so until Harpham's trial gets underway May 31st. Reporting live at the federal building, Jeff Humphrey, KXLY4.